You've gotten fat, and everyone knows the reasons why. Such a disgrace cannot happen at my court. Do you wish to stay? Then you will have to pass the purity test. We must know you are not carrying a child in your womb, Lady Flora Hastings was told. In the wake of this scandal, many at the royal court changed their minds about the good-natured Queen Victoria. Some even dared to accuse that the Queen had driven the maid of honor to her grave. But the naive Queen Victoria did fall for the rumors. In 1839, a scandal broke at the royal court involving 32-year-old unmarried Flora Hastings. Lady Flora Elizabeth Rawdon Hastings was born in Edinburgh in 1806. She was the daughter and firstborn son of Sir Francis Rawdon and Lady Flora Moir Campbell, 6th the Countess Loudon. Flora became maid of honor to her mother Victoria, Duchess of Kent, joining her court at Kensington. Victoria was not fond of Flora. She was older than the Queen and reported to the Duchess of Kent on all of Victoria's movements. A striking spy. I hate to see her in my house, Queen Victoria wrote of Lady Hastings. It was said that she was not pretty, but portraits show otherwise, and that Flora had been a maiden for too long. Flora was already looked upon with suspicion, at 32 and unmarried. Maybe she's no longer innocent and is afraid of bringing further disgrace to the family. And one day, after a trip to Scotland to Loudon Castle with John Conroy, who had invented the strict Kensington system of education for Victoria, Flora felt nauseous. The doctor's examination did not produce the expected results, if only because the girl refused to undress in front of the man. And in Victorian England, even pregnant women wore corsets, which immediately raised suspicions. Queen Victoria willingly listened to all the gossip concerning the hated Lady Hastings. Therefore, in the theory that Flora is pregnant, she believed with great willingness. Indeed, the strange trip to Scotland with her longtime suitor, Flora's obscenely advanced age, the nausea and the slight fullness in her abdomen. Lady Hastings could not have gained weight so quickly over the Christmas holidays at Loudon Castle. Soon, suspicions of pregnancy of the English lady became the subject of gossip not only noble ladies, but also the Prime Minister Lord Melbourne, the Duke of Wellington, and even the younger brother of Flora Hastings herself. Only the Duchess of Kent was on the side of her maid of honor, in every way denying the lewd thoughts of the courtiers. However, the secret about the pregnancy of Lady Hastings reached such a scale that it was impossible to ignore the gossip. An unmarried pregnant aristocrat in the Queen's entourage or her mother's could compromise the royal family. And there was no business about credibility. Only a medical examination of Flora's innocence would save her reputation. After all, the test itself would already be a stigma. To avoid total disgrace, Flora agreed to the shameful test. Her maids wept, covering their eyes at what they saw. What a shame to subject an aristocrat to such foreplay. After a thorough examination, 2 doctors concluded that the girl is clean and the fullness of the abdomen is not related to pregnancy. But even this was not enough. The court began to make excuses, saying that pregnancy could occur even if the girl's innocence was preserved. Victoria scrutinized the medical documents. What a dilemma. To decide which side to choose, she asked Flora to meet in person. However, Flora, writing off her illness, could only come to see the Queen a few days later. She was pale, with drops of sweat from weakness on her forehead. But the belly kept the Queen busy. All the signs of toxemia and general pregnancy malaise. Victoria decided to resolve the situation diplomatically, and since Flora said she was sick, so be it. The Queen warmly embraced her, took her hand, apologized for the inconvenience, and wished her a speedy recovery, to which Lady Flora thanked her and promised to forget about the trouble for the sake of her family. However, Lady Flora's family and her friend Sir John Conroy had no intention of forgetting what had happened. Conroy used the situation for his own selfish purposes to attack Lord Melbourne and his government. Lady Flora also did not forgive the underlying grudge against Victoria and Melbourne. She wrote to her uncle Captain Fitzgerald that her honor had been besmirched by the dreadful inspection. Who would now marry one whose reputation had been tarnished by mere rumor? Fitzgerald traveled to London, enlisting the support of Lady Flora's younger brother, Lord Hastings, who initially blamed Melbourne and even threatened a duel. Lord Hastings said that he wanted to protect the honor of the family and his sister. For this reason, he simply had to take the horrible treatment of Lady Flora public. However, after speaking to the Prime Minister, Lord Hastings admitted that Melbourne had done everything possible to prevent the scandal. Lady Flora also assured her brother that the Queen was not directly to blame and was sincerely sorry for what had happened. She had only succumbed to public opinion. Lady Hastings laid the blame on two women, Baroness Leakin, who disliked the Duchess of Kent and her ladies-in-waiting, and Lady Portman. Flora Hastings's mother, the Dowager Marquess, even called for the punishment of all those responsible who dared to defame the honor of her daughter with their gossip and inspections. Thus, a little court gossip turned into a big London scandal. And many indeed began to accuse the Queen of failing to make a proper apology to the noble lady after such an almost forced disgrace, which was made known to the public. Soon the scandal was already picked up by publishers, recounting in the newspapers that the Queen had humiliated an innocent court lady. Victoria was angry. She began to hate Flora more and more, believing that she was now insulting Her Majesty with her offense. The situation seemed insoluble. Court tensions grew, and meanwhile Flora, like a delicate flower, withered before her eyes. And Lady Hastings' illness made Victoria even angrier. Only Lord Melbourne feared Flora's death. What if she really is ill? How would Queen Victoria look from the outside, who had forced a sick noble lady to such a disgrace? But Victoria's hatred became so strong that even for the sake of propriety, she did not express compassion to Flora, going into a whirlwind of social life and balls. Only the sad news from William Chambers, one of London's leading physicians, sobered the Queen. Flora was indeed ill, and she had only a few days to live. Then, suddenly regaining her senses, Victoria cancelled the next ball and went to visit the sick. But instead of the rosy-cheeked Flora, she found a skeleton lying in bed with sunken eyes, pale lips, and a bulging belly. Victoria was still hesitant. Her stomach was keeping her down again. But even if Lady Hastings had stumbled, she was really dying now, and the Queen was forced to squeeze out a few words. "This is our last meeting," whispered Flora. And after that, the Queen hurried out. A week later, she learned that Lady Hastings had indeed died. The doctor's autopsy report said that she had died of liver cancer. A huge tumor was the cause of that belly. And yes, Flora was innocent, according to the same report. But Victoria didn't even flinch. She nervously replied that she felt no remorse, and the Times and the Hastings family deserved to be punished, and if there were other times, she would have hanged them. It was surprising that a 20-year-old girl had so much cruelty in her. Many subjects turned against the Queen for her indifference. She was called the murderer of Lady Hastings, asking who her next victim was and whether Victoria was going to take an innocence test herself. Suddenly, she was Mrs. Melbourne.